The hospital was quiet, too quiet. Long silver halls stretched into darkness. Cold light shining from panels above. The smell of sharp medicine filled the air, mixed with the faint hum of machines. On one bed, near the end of the hall, lay a girl, small and fragile. Her skin glowed faintly. The strange color of her alien kind, but her light was fading fast. Her breaths came shallow, each one weaker than the last. Her fingers twitched, trying to hold on to life, but her body betrayed her. The alien doctors stood around her bed, whispering, their voices sharp and cruel. She will not survive. One said, her body is broken. No treatment can fix her. Another shook his head, his long fingers tapping the metal rail. Resources are wasted on her. Better to let her go. The girl's weak eyes shifted toward them, her lips trembling. She wanted to beg, but her voice would not come. For a moment, one doctor looked down at her, his gaze cold, not with pity, but with annoyance. He pressed a button on the wall, shutting down the machine beside her bed. The beeping slowed, then stopped, leaving only silence. She is worthless, the doctor said, turning away. We abandon her here. The others followed, their cloaks swaying. Footsteps echoing in the empty hall. The last door hissed shut, and the girl was left alone. The silence was heavier than before, pressing against her chest. Her eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from fear. Her heart begged for someone to stay, for someone to care, but no one came. The world blurred as her strength drained away, but someone had heard, someone had not left. At the far end of the hall, hidden in shadows, a man stood still. His clothes were simple, not a doctor, not a soldier, only a worker, a human. With tired eyes and calloused hands, his name was Daniel, and he had come to clean the halls. But when he heard the doctor's words, when he saw their cold faces, something inside him burned. He gripped the handle of his cart tighter, his jaw set. No one deserved to be left like that, not even an alien child. He waited until the footsteps faded, until the sound of doors sealed the doctors away. Then he moved, slow and quiet, pushing his cart past the rows of glowing beds. Each step echoed like thunder in his ears. His heart pounded, not with fear for himself, but with anger at their cruelty. He reached her bed, his breath caught in his throat. She looked so fragile, so small, her chest barely rising. Her skin was pale, glowing patterns dim and broken. Her eyes fluttered open, catching his confusion and fear in them. Daniel bent down, speaking softly. You're not alone. Her lips parted. A broken sound came out. Why? The word was weak, almost a breath, but it cut into him. Why would a human care? Why would anyone stay? Daniel's throat tightened. He swallowed hard, because no one should die like this. Her eyelids trembled. A tear slid down her cheek. He reached out, brushing it away with a rough hand. Her small fingers twitched, trying to hold his. The moment was fragile, but powerful, he knew, in that instant. He could not walk away. Daniel looked around the empty ward, the shadows creeping closer. If he left her here, she would be gone by morning. If he stayed, he risked being caught, punished, maybe killed. But the choice was already made inside him. He slid his arms beneath her, lifting her from the cold bed. Her body was light, far too light, as if the sickness had eaten her strength away. Her head fell against his chest, breath shaky, heart fluttering. He held her close, steadying her. With the warmth of his own body, "You're safe now," he whispered. Though danger was all around, the doors at the end of the hall remained closed. The doctors gone, the machines hummed softly, unaware of the crime he was committing. But Daniel did not see it as a crime. He saw it as the only choice, with careful steps. He carried her toward the service tunnels, the place where workers moved unseen. Forgotten by the world above, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. Every sound made him pause, listening for guards or drones. Her faint breathing pressed against his chest, reminding him of the risk, but also reminding him of why he had to go on. For the first time in her life, the alien girl was not left behind. She was not abandoned, not called worthless. A human had chosen to carry her, to fight for her. And though her eyes closed in weakness, her lips curved faintly, not in fear, but in the first fragile spark of hope. Daniel stepped into the darkness of the tunnels. His heart set. The story of survival had only just begun. Asterisk, the service tunnel was dark and narrow. Pipes lined the ceiling, dripping cold water that echoed against the walls. Daniel's footsteps were careful, but fast. The girl in his arms, barely stirring. Her skin was cool against his chest, her glowing patterns flickering faintly like dying stars. He looked down at her, his jaw tight, her breaths shallow, each one sounding like it might be her last. The thought pressed against his heart. If he slowed even a moment, she might slip away. Daniel knew the rules. He knew the laws of this alien city. Humans were tolerated only as workers, slaves of labor, invisible until needed. They were forbidden from interfering with alien affairs, especially medical ones, if the doctors discovered what he had done. If they caught him carrying her away, he would not live to see another sunrise. But still, he tightened his hold, moving deeper into the tunnels. His mind whispered warnings. Akeza, but his heart answered louder. He could not let her die like garbage thrown aside. Not while he could still breathe. The girl's eyes fluttered open. Again, her voice a faint whisper. Where? Where are you taking me? Daniel glanced down, his eyes softening. Somewhere safe. Her lips trembled, her words broken. No one saves. Not me. He shook his head, his grip firm. I do. She blinked, confused by the certainty in his voice. Then her eyes closed once more. Her trust, however fragile, was now placed in him. Daniel's thoughts raced. Where could he go? Where? Could he hide her? The city above was dangerous, filled with cameras and patrols. The underground was filled with scavengers who would sell her body for coin. He had only one option, an old maintenance shelter he once used during curfew. It was risky, broken down, but it was hidden. And for now, that was enough. He shifted her weight carefully and pushed open a rusted door at the tunnel's end. The air was thick with dust, the smell of old metal filling his nose. Inside was a forgotten storage room, filled with crates and broken machines. He laid her down gently on a stack of cloth rags, his hand brushing strands of her pale hair from her face. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, her markings dull. She looked so young. Too young to be abandoned. Anger burned in him again, remembering the cold words of the doctors. Worthless, they had called her. No life was worthless. Not to him. Daniel searched the room, his hands trembling. He found an old first aid kit meant for workers, not for aliens. Inside were only simple supplies, bandages, pain relievers, disinfectant. Nothing that could heal alien sickness. But he refused to give up. He sat by her side, lifting her gently to help her sip water from a cracked bottle. At first, she coughed, her body rejecting it. But slowly, her throat worked. Swallowing, her eyes opened faintly, meeting his. You're human? She whispered weakly. Daniel gave a small nod. Yes. Her lips curved faintly, as if mocking herself. And yet, you stay. Daniel's gaze softened. Because I choose to, for the first time in her life. Someone had said those words. No bargain, No order, no command, just choice. Her heart, weak as it was, stirred with something strange. She whispered, "Again? Why me?" Daniel didn't answer right away, his eyes fixed on the flickering patterns of her skin. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady. "Because you deserve to live." Her eyes filled with tears, rolling slowly down her cheeks. She turned her face slightly, hiding them, but Daniel saw. He didn't wipe them away this time. He let her cry. Sometimes tears were needed. Sometimes they were proof that the soul still wanted to hold on. Outside, distant sounds echoed through the pipe's mechanical hums. Sharp clicks, the rhythm of search drones. Daniel froze, listening, his heart racing. They were already looking for her, already hunting. He knew he had little time. He moved quickly, pulling broken crates to cover the doorway. Blocking the faint light from seeping out, the room sank into shadows, the only glow coming from her weak body. Daniel crouched beside her again, his hand resting gently on her arm. Her skin was cold, but under his palm he felt a faint pulse, weak, but there. A fragile thread tying her to life. He leaned closer, whispering, "I will protect you." The girl stirred, her lips parting. "Even if they come." Daniel nodded without hesitation. Even then, her faint breath shivered. Almost like a laugh, almost like disbelief. Her eyes closed once more, but not in fear. This time, in fragile trust, Daniel sat back, his own body trembling with exhaustion. But his resolve grew stronger. This was no longer a rescue. It was a vow. He had chosen her life over his safety. Over his own future, there was no turning back in the cold, abandoned shelter. As shadows grew longer, a human and an alien child lay hidden from the world that had cast them aside. She fought to live, and he fought for her, two lives now tied. Together by choice. Outside, the hunters drew nearer, but inside, hope burned brighter than fear, and in Daniel's heart, one truth was louder than all the danger. He had chosen to save her, and he would not let go. The night outside the shelter was heavy, filled with the low hum of patrol ships. Searchlights swept across the city streets, their sharp beams cutting through fog and smoke. The alien doctors had wasted no time. Their orders were clear: find the missing girl. For them, it was not about saving her. It was about punishing whoever dared to defy their decision. Daniel knew this, and that made his heart pound harder with every sound echoing in the distance. The girl lay curled on the pile of rags, her breathing faint but steady. Her eyes flickered open for moments, then closed again, as if every second was a fight. Daniel knelt beside her, brushing strands of pale hair from her face. "You have to hold on," he whispered, his voice trembling but strong. "I'll get you out." Her lips moved slightly, forming a weak sound. "Danger?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. But I'm not leaving you here." He rose quickly, scanning the room. There was no food, no supplies that could keep her alive for long. The shelter was only a temporary stop, not a place they could stay. Already, he heard faint metallic clicks outside, the sound of drones searching the tunnels. If he waited, they would find him, find her, and everything would be over. He had no choice. He had to move again. Daniel carefully lifted her into his arms. Her body felt even lighter now, her warmth fading. He wrapped an old worker's jacket around her, hiding her glow as best as he could. Then he pushed open the crates, slipping back into the tunnels. The air was damp and thick, the pipes groaning above them. He moved slowly, every step measured, his ears straining for the hum of machines. Shadows clung to the walls. The only light came from the flicker of broken lamps, leaving most of the tunnel in darkness. Daniel kept to the edges, his back pressed against cold metal. Each time he heard a sound, he froze, holding his breath. Clutching her tighter, twice he saw drones glide past openings above, red eyes glowing as they scanned the corridors. Their beams passed within inches of his face, but the shadows protected him, and the drones moved on. His heart hammered, but he forced himself to keep going. The girl stirred weakly in his arms, her voice soft. Why risk this? Daniel bent his head close, whispering, because you matter. Her eyelids fluttered. A tear escaping down her cheek, she whispered. Again, almost like a confession. No one ever said that? Daniel swallowed hard, anger mixing with sorrow. What kind of world left a child to believe she was worthless? He tightened his hold, moving faster, his steps echoing through the hollow passage. The tunnel split ahead, one path rising toward the city, the other dropping deeper underground. Daniel paused, listening. From above, he heard the buzz of patrol ships, the voices of alien enforcers. From below, only silence, but also the unknown. He clenched his jaw. Choosing the shadows over certain capture, he descended, the tunnel growing colder. Water dripping steadily from the ceiling. The girl pressed weakly against him, her breath shaky, but she did not speak. Her trust was silent, but it was there. After what felt like hours, Daniel found a narrow chamber. The walls were covered in rust, but inside were old maintenance supplies, broken lamps, cracked storage containers, and most important, tan ancient air vent that led outside. He lowered the girl gently onto a stack of cloth. Her skin glowed faintly, even through the jacket. He touched her forehead, feeling the heat of fever. He had to get her help soon, or even his care would not be enough. Suddenly, a faint hum filled the chamber. Daniel's eyes shot up. Through the vent above, a red light flickered the eye of a drone. It had found them. Adrenaline surged through him. He grabbed a broken pipe from the floor, his muscles tensed. The drone squeezed halfway through the vent, its red eye glowing brighter. Daniel swung with all his strength, smashing the spook pipe into its head. Sparks burst. The machine shuddered, then crashed to the ground. The girl let out a frightened gasp, her hand clutching his arm. Daniel crouched beside her quickly, whispering, "It's okay. I've got you." But he knew this was only the beginning. If one drone had found them, more would follow. He needed to move fast before the whole underground swarmed with hunters. He lifted her again, his breath ragged, his arms aching but unwilling to let go. Her weak voice reached him again. "They'll never stop." Daniel pressed his forehead against hers for a brief moment, whispering, "Then neither will I." He moved toward the vent, forcing his body through the narrow gap with her in his arms. Metal scraped against his back, the air sharp with dust and smoke. On the other side was open night, the ruined outskirts of the city stretching into darkness. The stars above were faint, hidden behind alien ships that patrolled the skies. But Daniel didn't look up. He only looked forward. He carried her into the shadows, his heart a steady drum. The hunt had begun. But so had their escape. The night. Air outside the vent was colder than the tunnels. A sharp wind cut against Daniel's face as he stepped into the ruins beyond the city. The buildings here were broken shells, long abandoned after the alien war machines had destroyed them. Dust drifted through the empty streets, and the faint hum of patrol ships echoed above. Daniel moved quickly, keeping to the shadows, the girl hidden in his arms beneath the old worker's jacket. Her faint glow threatened to give them away. So he pulled the fabric tighter. She stirred, her weak voice whispering, "Where are we?" Daniel looked down, his breath clouding in the cold. Farther from them, closer to safety. her eyes half opened. Confusion and fear mixing with fragile trust, she nodded faintly, then closed them again. Her body sinking against his chest. Daniel knew these ruins well. Years ago, when the aliens took the city, many humans had hidden here. The places were now forbidden zones, marked unsafe, crawling with scavengers and disease. But Daniel also knew that the patrols avoided them. To the aliens, these ruins were already dead, not worth scanning. And so, step by step, Daniel carried her deeper into the broken streets, his boots crunching. Against glass and ash, he searched the ruins with desperate eyes. Finally, he spotted a collapsed building with a hidden cellar beneath. The entrance was covered by rubble, but Daniel remembered the path he squeezed through. His body scraping stone, the girl shielded in his arms. The air inside was heavy with dust, the smell of mold thick. But to Daniel, it was shelter, and to her, it might mean another night alive. Inside, the cellar was dark and damp. Old crates lay scattered. Spiderwebs stretched across corners. Water dripped slowly from cracks in the ceiling. Daniel lowered her gently onto a cloth sack he found. T's hands trembling from exhaustion. Her breathing was shallow, her chest rising in fragile rhythm. Her markings flickered faintly, as if her very skin was crying for help. She gripped his wrist weakly, her voice thin. "Don't leave me." Daniel's heart twisted. He knelt beside her, his voice firm but soft. "I'm not leaving you. Not ever." Her eyes, filled with fear, met his. She searched his face, looking for any sign of a lie, but found none for the first time. She allowed herself to close her eyes, trusting the human who had carried her this far. Daniel searched the cellar for anything useful. He found broken tools, rotting blankets, and a rusted first aid kit. Inside were a few bandages, a cracked vial of disinfectant, nothing fit for her alien body. Frustration burned in his chest, but he refused to give up. He took her hand, rubbing warmth into her cold fingers, whispering, "You're going to make it, I promise." The girl stirred, her lips parting. "Why do this?" Daniel hesitated, the weight of her question heavy, because he could not walk away, because no child deserved abandonment. Because something deep in him told him this was more than chance, but all he said was, "Because life matters. Yours matters." Her breath caught, her eyes glistened. She had never heard those words before, never believed she was anything but a burden. Now, a human spoke them with such certainty it made her heart ache. Outside, the faint whir of patrol. Drones passed. Red lights swept over the ruins, but none entered. The shelter was hidden. For now, Daniel sat near the entrance, pipe in hand, ready to defend her if needed. His body screamed for rest, but he forced his eyes open, watching the shadows move across the broken walls. Every sound made his pulse quicken. Every distant hum made him hold his breath. But when he turned to look at her, lying weak but alive, his resolve hardened. Hours passed. The night dragged on. Daniel tended to her as best he could, giving her sips of water, adjusting the jacket to keep her warm. At one point, she whispered again, her voice trembling. "They said I was worthless." Daniel shook his head sharply, his voice fierce. "They were wrong." She stared at him, shocked by the strength in his tone. No one had ever fought for her with words. No one had ever believed she was worth saving. Yet, this human did, and it made her chest ache with a strange, painful warmth. As dawn's light began to filter faintly through cracks in the rubble, the girl stirred again. Her voice was almost gone, but her words were clear. "If they find us, leave me." Daniel's eyes burned with anger, his jaw tightening. No, he said firmly, leaning close so she could see the fire in his gaze. I will never leave you. Her lips trembled, tears sliding down her pale cheeks for the first time. She believed someone meant those words. The city outside remained hostile. The aliens still searched, but in the forbidden shelter, hope was born in the dark. Daniel sat beside her, guarding her fragile life with every breath. The world had abandoned her, but he had chosen differently, and his Asterix's choice was unshakable, even against the shadow of death. The morning light broke faintly through cracks in the rubble. Dust floated in the air like silver threads, and the ruined cellar smelled of damp stone. Daniel sat against the wall, his pipe across his lap, his eyes heavy but sharp beside him. The alien girl stirred weakly, her breath shallow, but still there. Every rise of her chest reminded him why he stayed awake through the night. She opened her eyes slowly, the faint glow of her markings flickering, her lips moved, her voice cracked. You are still here? Daniel gave a small smile, tired but firm. I told you I wouldn't leave. Her eyes softened, but also filled with confusion. She whispered, humans don't save us. They don't fight for us. Daniel shook his head, brushing dust from her hair. Then maybe they never met the right one. The girl tried to push herself up, but her body trembled and fell back. Daniel caught her, steadying her carefully. You're not strong enough yet, he said gently. Save your strength. She closed her eyes in frustration, her lips pressing tight. He could feel her anger, her shame at weakness. Daniel spoke softly. Strength isn't just in the body, sometimes it's in holding on when the world wants you gone. He stood, searching the cellar for anything useful. Among broken crates, he found a sack of dried roots, the kind workers used to chew when food was scarce. He crushed them, mixing with a little water in a rusted tin cup. It was bitter, but it was something. He brought it to her lips, holding her. Carefully, she hesitated, staring at the strange mix. It's not alien medicine, Daniel admitted. But it's human care, and sometimes that works better. She sipped slowly, grimacing at the taste, but swallowing. Her eyes flickered open wider. Surprise in them, her chest rose deeper, the faintest strength returning. Daniel watched her closely. Her glow was still weak, her body still fragile, but her eyes carried more life than before. He gave a small laugh of relief, the sound breaking the silence. She tilted her head, confused. Why laugh? Daniel shook his head. Because I can see you're still fighting. Her lips curved faintly, the first hint of a smile he had ever seen on her. Hours passed. Daniel gathered scraps of cloth and patched together a bed for her. He wrapped her in the warmest layers he could find, adjusting them carefully. Each time her hand trembled, he steadied it. Each time her breath caught, he whispered soft words. The alien doctors had left her to die, calling her worthless, but Daniel treated her as if she was precious, as if every breath mattered. At one point, she whispered again, "Why risk your life for me?" Daniel crouched close, his voice steady. "Because you're alive, and that's reason enough." Her eyes filled with tears again, not of weakness, but of something deeper. She turned her face away, ashamed of them, but Daniel gently tilted her chin back. "Don't hide," he said. "Tears mean your spirit still wants to live." She blinked, her tears sliding freely now. Her heart had been told all its life that she was nothing. Now, in the quiet ruin, a human made her believe she might be something more. But the peace was thin, fragile. Outside, Daniel heard faint hums of machines, patrols sweeping closer. The girl sensed it too, her body trembling. "They're near." Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we stay quiet. stay hidden. He pushed crates against the cellar's cracks. Blocking the glow of her skin, they sat in silence, only the drip of water echoing above them. Footsteps thudded faintly, voices sharp and alien. Daniel gripped his pipe, ready to fight if they broke through. The girl's hand reached out, clutching his sleeve, her eyes wide with fear. Daniel leaned close, whispering, "I'm here." No matter what happens, minutes felt like hours, but the footsteps passed. The hum of drones faded, the danger slipped away. Leaving the silence heavy again, Daniel released a slow breath, his body trembling from the tension. The girl's grip loosened, her shoulders sinking in weak relief. "You didn't let go," she whispered, half in awe, half in disbelief. Daniel shook his head firmly. "I never will." That night, as the stars blinked faintly above the ruined city, Daniel sat awake beside her. The girl lay wrapped in the human's patchwork care, her breaths steadier than before. The alien doctors had given her nothing but abandonment. But Daniel gave her warmth, food, medicine, and words of value. The human way was not filled with cold laws or cruel judgment. It was filled with stubbornness, kindness, and the refusal to let a life slip away. And in the silence of the forbidden shelter, a fragile bond grew stronger. She was no longer only a dying alien child. She was someone Daniel had chosen to fight for, and as long as he lived, he would not let her be abandoned again. The night was not silent anymore. Daniel heard it first, a low hum that grew louder, echoing across the ruined streets above the cellar. The girl stirred, her weak body trembling, her markings flickering faintly like warning lights. "They are coming," she whispered, her voice soft but full of fear. Daniel gripped the pipe in his hand, his knuckles white, his jaw set. He had known this moment would come, and now it was here. Through cracks in the rubble, he saw red lights sweep across the ruins. Shadows of drones glided past, followed by heavy footsteps of alien enforcers. They were searching, tearing apart the forbidden shelters one by one. Their voices echoed, harsh and cold. "The human thief has taken her. Find them both." Daniel's chest tightened, but his eyes hardened. He turned to the girl, who lay pale against the makeshift bed. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and guilt. "Leave me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "If they catch you, you will die." Daniel knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. "I told you before," he said firmly. "I will not leave you." The sound of rubble shifting grew closer. Dust rained from the ceiling as the aliens tore apart the buildings above. Daniel quickly pulled crates against the entrance, creating a barrier. It would not stop them long, but it might buy them moments. The girl grabbed his sleeve, tears shining in her eyes. "You can still run," she begged, her voice shaking. "Don't waste your life on me." Daniel looked at her, his voice strong and unshaken. "You are not a waste. You are worth every risk." The first explosion rocked the cellar. The wall cracked, light flooding in as drones forced their way through. Their red eyes glowed as they locked onto Daniel and the girl. The enforcers' footsteps thundered closer, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Daniel stood tall, pipe in hand, his body trembling, but his will like steel. Behind him, the girl tried to sit up, but her body failed her. Tears streamed down her face as she cried out, "Don't fight, they'll kill you." Daniel turned his head slightly, giving her a small, fierce smile. "Then I'll make sure they remember a human stood in their way." The first drone flew at him, its claws sparking. Daniel swung the pipe with all his strength, smashing it to the ground. Sparks burst, the machine screeched, but another took its place. Daniel fought desperately, Every strike fueled not by hope of winning, but by refusal to give up, above the noise of battle. The girl screamed his name, her voice cracking, her weak body glowed brighter for the first time. Markings flaring as if reacting to her fear. An enforcer burst through the rubble, tall and armored, its weapon aimed directly at Daniel. Humming with power, Daniel raised the pipe, but he knew it was useless against such strength. The shot charged. Light blazing, in that moment, the girl forced herself up, her body shaking violently. "No," she cried, her voice breaking with power she did not know she had. A sudden surge of energy burst from her, glowing light wrapping around Daniel like a shield. The weapon fired, but the blast scattered against the shimmering barrier. The enforcer staggered back in shock, its glowing eyes wide. Daniel turned, stunned. As he saw her standing weakly, her body surrounded by a faint aura. Her legs shook, her breaths ragged, but her hands were raised, protecting him. Tears streamed down her face. "I can't let them take you," she whispered. Daniel's heart ached, pride and fear mixing inside him. "You should be resting," he shouted. "Not burning yourself out," but she shook her head, her eyes fierce through the pain. "You saved me when no one else would. Now I save you." The enforcers roared, charging again. Daniel stood at her side, pipe in hand, while she held the glowing shield. Together they faced the storm of drones and soldiers. Daniel swung with all his strength, striking machines down one after another. She pushed her power outward, waves of light knocking enemies back. But each use drained her more, her glow flickering dangerously. Daniel could see her collapsing, could feel her weakening. He caught her as her knees buckled, his arms steadying her trembling body. The enemies hesitated, blinded by the strange power of the alien child and the human who refused to fall. Daniel raised the pipe again, his voice hoarse but fierce. "If you want her, you go through me." The girl pressed her forehead weakly against his chest, whispering, "Don't let go." Daniel held her tighter, his voice firm. "Never, then." For reasons Daniel did not understand. The enforcers began to retreat. Perhaps they feared her sudden power. Perhaps they saw the cost of fighting a human who would not surrender. The red lights faded into the ruins. The hum of machines growing distant. Daniel dropped to his knees. His chest heaving, the girl collapsed fully against him. Her glow dimming, her body limp. He shook her gently, panic burning in his chest. "Stay with me, please. Don't leave me now." Her lips moved faintly, her words fragile but clear. "You are my hope." Daniel held her close, his eyes burning with tears. Even in the face of death, she had stood for him, just as he had stood for her, and as silence filled the cellar once more. Daniel knew this was not the end. The fight for her life and for their bond had only begun. The cellar was silent again, but not with peace. The air smelled of smoke and sparks from broken drones, dust falling gently from the shattered ceiling. Daniel knelt on the ground, the alien girl limp in his arms, her glow faint like the last flicker of a dying flame. His hands shook as he touched her face, his voice hoarse with desperation. "Stay with me, please. Don't let go now." Her eyelids fluttered, her breaths shallow. She whispered, barely audible. "Gave too much?" Daniel shook his head, his eyes wet. "No, you gave enough. You saved us." Her lips curved faintly, the ghost of a smile. "Not us. You." Daniel's chest tightened, his arms pulling her closer. "I told you," he whispered fiercely. "We stand together." The dawn light seeped through cracks above. Pale and weak, it touched her face, making her glow shimmer faintly again. Her pulse was weak, but still there, fragile like a thread of silk. Daniel leaned his forehead against hers, whispering, "You're not leaving me. Not now." For long moments he simply held her, the ruined shelter surrounding them with silence. Then, slowly, he felt that her breaths grew deeper, her glow steadier. Her body trembled, fighting, refusing to fall into the darkness. She opened her eyes again, faint but alive. "You didn't give up," she whispered, her voice thin. "You stayed." Daniel smiled through tears, his voice steady. "And I always will." Hours passed as the morning grew brighter. The patrols did not return. The ruins above fell quiet. It seemed the aliens had retreated for now, perhaps fearful of the girl's power. Daniel didn't care why. He only cared that she was safe in this moment. He gave her water, wrapped her tighter in cloth, and stayed close. Her head rested against his chest, her small hand gripping his shirt weakly. Not out of fear, but out of need. Daniel looked down at her, and for the first time, he saw not only weakness in her, he saw courage. The same courage that had stood between him and death only hours before. As the sun rose higher, light spilled across the ruins. Daniel helped her sit up slowly, supporting her carefully. Her body trembled, but her eyes carried a new strength. She gazed at him, whispering, "You gave me life when they gave me death." Daniel's throat tightened, his voice breaking softly. "And you gave me hope when I had none." The bond between them had been forged in fear, but now it burned brighter than the ruins around them. They were no longer doctor and patient, no longer savior and saved. They were something more. Something neither of them fully understood, but both knew it was real, and it was unbreakable. The girl leaned her head against his shoulder, her voice soft. "What happens now?" Daniel looked out at the broken city, the patrol ships distant in the sky. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we'll face it together." Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a smile filled with fragile trust. "Together," she echoed, her voice trembling but strong. Daniel rose, lifting her gently once more. His body ached, his muscles screamed with exhaustion. But he did not falter. He carried her out of the cellar into the light of morning. The city ruins stretched before them, silent and broken, yet full of hidden paths. He took a deep breath, his heart steady. Every step forward was dangerous, but every step forward was life. The girl's eyes closed again. Not in fear, but in rest. Her breathing was steadier, her markings faint but glowing once more. Daniel tightened his hold, whispering, "You are safe with me." The words were simple, but to her, they were everything. For the first time since her abandonment, she believed them. The sun climbed higher, painting the ruins in gold. The shadows of the past still lingered, the danger still hunted. But in that moment, under the rising dawn, the two of them stood together. A human who refused to let go, and an alien child who had found worth in his arms. They were no longer abandoned, no longer alone. Their story was only beginning, and it would be written not in despair, but in hope. Daniel stepped into the light, carrying her close. The world had called her worthless. The doctors had left her to die, but he had chosen differently. And that choice had changed everything. A new dawn had risen, not just for her, not just for him, but for both. Together they walked into the unknown, fragile but unbroken. For in the darkest night, a human heart had proven stronger than fear, and in his arms, an alien life had been reborn.